Well, hello. Welcome back to the Productpreneur Success Podcast. Kath Langman here with you again. And today I'm going to bring you one of my most favorite conversations to share with you on this show. I think probably ever in the history of the show. So this year I have observed a lot of businesses that started during the e-commerce boom time of COVID. So 2020, 2021, this year, starting to experience a decline in sales or just really finding that trying to get the same results that they easily got during COVID is now taking them a lot more time, effort, and investment. And what actually happened during COVID lockdowns is that most of us had no other way to shop than to shop online. And, many of us were shopping online for things that we would never have normally spent money on as well. For example, we were spending so much more time at home for work as well as non-work leisure time. So we were spending more money making our homes more beautiful or making our offices or ourselves more comfortable, especially those of us with kids who suddenly had to find ways to keep them entertained. We're spending more money on things like that as well. The life we all experienced during those first 2 years of COVID produced about 10 years worth of e-commerce sales growth in that very short period of time. It was intense. And after our lives opened back up, kids went back to school and people went back to their normal workplaces, and our online shopping habits changed again, with the result being that, all of a sudden that innate demand for e-commerce was not really there in the same capacity. It hasn't actually changed back to exactly how it was before COVID, but it's changed again, if that makes sense. And unfortunately, this resulted in a lot of business owners feeling like they were suddenly not cut out for business or were failures because their sales might have declined or their marketing was no longer producing the same kind of results with the same, level of effort. And they could no longer rely on, simply posting on Instagram and receiving a ton of sales. The simple fact that it was now harder to get the same results has left a lot of business owners feeling like there's something wrong with them or their business. And this is absolutely not the case. It just comes down to changes in consumer behavior. So today on the show, I'm joined by a friend of mine, a beautiful friend of mine, who's also a former client and who is one of the best humans I know. She's been in business for more than 12 years. So in our conversation today, we talk about the before, the during, and the after COVID period in business. What the impacts have been on her business, how she's navigating things in her business right now, as we all as consumers are experiencing the cost pressures of inflation and interest rate rises, and all the things that she's doing in her business, to put it in a good place for the next phase of her business. So I really want to invite you to help me welcome Lou Duggan from Cake to the Rescue onto the show. So welcome back to the show, Lou. It's so exciting to have you here again.
It's like old times.
I know, we'll probably talk for hours. So I know that we've got lots of listeners who probably haven't, heard about you or heard you share your story. So why don't we just kick off with that? Who are you? What's your business? What are you all about?
Sure. So I'm Lou Duggan. Probably most people would know me as Baker Lou, and I am the owner of Cake to the Rescue. It's an e-commerce brand, and we sell do-it-yourself cake kits. So, gosh, 12 years ago now, I was a bit of a Martha Stewart at home and developing some business ideas with a friend of mine. Kind of bored putting the kids into school, and we came up with this concept of delivering a party to your home. And we started developing this party brand. And we also came up with the idea of delivering a cake kit. So a kit with everything you need to make that kid at home. And we launched those two things together to our friends on one drunken night. And they looked at it and they're like, that party thing, we don't really care, but that cake thing's really cool. And so we kind of skyrocketed launching that cake brand with the full intention of launching the party brand later. And we very quickly got the lucky break of one of the producers of the Today Show deciding that we were great and asking us to be on the show. And it happened probably within about 4 or 5 months. And that kind of got the brand moving. Unfortunately, we weren't very smart. We didn't even have a pop-up to capture the emails of those people that nearly broke the site that weekend because we were so green and new. But it kind of got us started with it. And Cake to the Rescue's been here for the last 13 years. So it was one of those ideas that we wanted to. So I'm an engineer and interior designer by trade. I don't have any cake baking skills. It's always been my secret weapon. If I can make it, so can you. But the engineering background kind of really helped me to create a process, I guess. Engineers are really good at thinking about how people will feel when they're doing something. What are all the things that are going to go wrong? Getting all your ducks in a row. They're quite good at working out all that part of it to create something. So that little joint combination of my engineering and my art kind of just made Cake to the Rescue a really cool product. And so it's been a long journey and a lot of lessons to learn. I think it took me 6 years to find you and get my ducks in a row. I don't think it was till I met you that I actually got myself truly sorted and got myself to the stage where I wasn't just throwing mud at the wall and praying for it. And gosh, I would say that held me together for the last 6 years through the roller coaster of what's been. And so yeah, I love what I do. The company's really cool. It keeps my left and right brain busy. I like to say that that I can choose when to get off the bus each day. So do I want to be smart business lady? Do I want to be creative lady? Or have my kids been a nightmare? And do I just want to sit in the warehouse filling shelves and switching my brain off while binging Netflix? So it's been a great balance for me. So yeah, it's a really fun business. And I love what we've built here. It's really cool.
It is really, really cool. And I just want to make it extra clear for listeners. It's not like cake mixes like you would buy off a shelf in the supermarket. This is like, instead of your Women's Weekly cake designs, they're, really fun and, really great looking but also simple to execute. The designs that you can create for your kids' parties or birthdays or Christmas or school or whatever the case may be, that you need a good looking cake.
There used to be this word, what's your bag hag, your big, hairy, audacious goal. Do you remember that? I don't know if people still use that or not. And my bag hag was always to be the modern day version of the Women's Weekly. And then someone pointed out to me, all those designs are from 1970 and they're just made of lollies. And so you damn well hope that 50 years later it's an advanced version. But people are so protective of the Women's Weekly because they still make them and their parents made them, and there's such an emotional attachment to cake and memory. So yes, the idea is to make you look so good, but to make it really easy, but to not make it look like you just throw a whole lot of lollies at a cake. The feeling that maybe you did get someone to make it. And we have over 400 designs now, which is really unbelievable when I think back on it. But it's almost like a cake a week for 12 years that I've designed, which is kind of staggering when you think about it that way, right? But yes, whether you're like a dinosaur, a fairy, a gaming cake, a birthday, a baby shower.
Were really popular, I think, a few years ago.
Massive. At the moment, it's baby dinosaurs. The baby dinosaurs have finally taken over from the unicorns. We had years of unicorns, and unicorns are still massive. But this last year, I created like a dress-up dinosaur. I actually really wanted to create something that bridged that gap between the fact that boys like fairies and dinosaurs and girls like fairies and dinosaurs. And so we did all these dress-ups. So it's a baby dinosaur, but you can have him in a superhero outfit, a mermaid outfit, a fairy outfit, Christmas lights. And he is now our top selling cake. He's actually eclipsed the unicorn for the first time in 12 years.
That's crazy.
Somebody's taken that unicorn down. So
cool.
funny.
Oh, cool. So obviously you've been in business for a good long time now. I was actually reading I'm not going to get the stat right now, but there's quite a high percentage of businesses that don't make it past 10 years. So you've well past that, which is amazing. The last 3 years have been pretty crazy though. So let's kind of talk about what happened in your business. I know leading into that, obviously you did a lot of work on your website and your marketing and just those systems of getting traffic and sales to your store. But what happened after that as we went into 2020?
Yeah, it was quite scary, to be honest, because we're a manufacturer. We manufacture the product. We don't manufacture all of it on site. We have a company. We actually work with an amazing company called Endeavour Foundation, who are for mentally disabled people to have a job in a safe environment, and they manufacture all of our cake mix. We do down bag our fondant in-house, but you had that problem, and even our box manufacturers and all this problem, you had the problem of not knowing whether they were going to be closed down. And so you had this moment of, is my business going to reduce dramatically, and therefore I should down the hatches and not buy anything? Or do I need to buy massive bulk because I'm worried that, especially when it's a disabled facility, it's more likely to close earlier than others, that fear that they will close and then you have nothing. And it was a moment of deciding, how am I going to market this? Because birthday parties aren't going to happen anymore. And what am I going to say? And how am I going to make my business survive? And so I came straight in with the branding of knowing we had a really tight community, and went straight in with the branding of, you'll still have the cake. So when there's nothing else to do and no more memories to make, you can still have a picture with the cake. And to make the cake the one memory you can have, and that it's not really relevant whether you've got 25 kids to eat that 25 serve cake. It's actually about the cake. It's the one thing that can stay constant. And so I wrote to my customers and told them I'd committed to buying, huge bulk of everything so that I could support them through that time. And it was smart from a marketing perspective, but it also meant a lot to me because we have customers that have been buying our cakes for years, and they call it their memory. Their kids look forward to looking on the site. Some kids have got 4 years of cakes already chosen up in front of them. And so we took this massive risk, and it was terrifying. It genuinely was at the start. And a lot of conversation about our New Zealand company closed down because Jacinta Ardern did the no food through the mail thing, that it was going to be, might be infectious. So we actually lost Cake to the Rescue New Zealand to COVID, but Cake to the Rescue Australia grew 100% in 2 years. And that's really, really exciting. But holy smokes, you better get your ducks in a row. It's like, and it's a risk because you're constantly having to build it and get it bigger and have more staff and expand your facility, not knowing what's coming. You literally just have to trust. And I'm not great on trust. I don't know about any other small business owners, but trust is hard. And we were rewarded for it. And Cake to the Rescue grew massively. And it was amazing. And it funded some brilliant extensions to the company that come now. One thing I would say as a business owner for the last 12 years is every year I try and invest a pocket of money in making my business less complicated. So what would that be like? That my system will automatically print all the recipe cards and templates, that there was a place to allocate it. These are all custom things. The first time we invested in our branded box and paying $5,000 to have the stencil made for it. The first time you invest in all these different things, and it allowed us to mirror our business. We used to pack and make our food in the same sections in the mornings and afternoons and do a cleanup. And now we have two completely different facilities, so that the prep room is always prepped for food and the warehouse is always prepped for warehouse. And we also doubled all of our stock for that, so that they were a mirrored business. So it gave us a massive opportunity to do those things where the money was just sitting there. It was like this pool of money that allowed us to do things that we've always dreamed of doing, but weren't sure. So that was amazing. There were moments I remember.
What was the hardest time? Like doubling in a couple of years, like, it sounds exciting, and I know there would be a lot of listeners who would go, yeah, I really want to double my business, but people aren't ready for that in that short of space of time.
It is terrifying in terms of trust and doing that thing. We were lucky in that it depends what doubling it means. If doubling it means that all of a sudden you now need a warehouse, or all of a sudden doubling it means you have a massive change in expense. You know, businesses have a moment, don't they? Like a sweet spot. And there's a sweet spot where it's like, I can make money to here. And then from that point, I have to change my environment, which means maybe the next $100,000 in sales are still even to where I was 100 grand earlier, because of all the things that go with it. With Cake to the Rescue, we were lucky that 9 years in, we were at the base of our sweet spot. I've got our business is like a tight, well-oiled machine.
It's the engineering.
Like, I don't mess about. So everything is as tight and as sharp as it could be. And so we were lucky, we were in the base of ours. So every single one of those sales just came into direct profit. And yes, you had to have more staff hours, but the staff hours were worked into the price of the product. Really important to put your staff hours into the price of your product, not as an extra, especially if you have, our product is a little bit impractical, if I'm honest, because it's it's a manpower job. You know, it's not all done by machine, and so you have to have the price, the staff into your price. So we were able to just go shoop, and we were probably on the brink of it, like at the top end of it. The worst moment for me was we launched cupcakes during COVID, and the reason we did it was, one, because of the health and hygiene part, and two, because people wanted something to do with their kids in the holidays. And cupcakes went bananas. And like, you know, bananas, I've never had this, because when we launched cake kits, if you have 300 designs and you put one more design in, you don't get a flood of that cake the next day, because kids choose between them. But when you launch a school holiday product and you say you've got from here to here, and by the way, it's during COVID, so when we run out of all of the cutters and things we bought for it, you're done. People go nuts. like I've actually not been able to recreate that after COVID as easily. Like COVID, people really were desperate, and you could create some things that you don't see out of COVID so much. You can create excitement around a launch, but not on the COVID level. And so what happened is we launched, I think it was our Christmas cupcakes, and then the government announced a lockdown, and my staff couldn't come to work.
My Lord.
And I literally stayed up for 24 hours, cutting down, bagging fondant, just constantly creating stock and trying to get it out the door. And I remember I did it for about a week. And at the end of it, I had RSI in my hands. I had elbow things. I had it was just, my body was done. And I promised I'd never be in that position again. And it just was, that was the worst moment, because it's one thing to create it all, but then when no one can come to work, and you've promised all these people all this stuff, and you've bought all the product for it, you can't just
you want to shift it too.
Totally. Your stock's gonna go. So that was the worst moment of it, for sure. And the other worst moment was just the fear at the start that my business would die. I really, if I have to go back and say, why did the business succeed during COVID? It was definitely that first email. It's definitely when something completely changes, thinking, what are my customers thinking? How are they feeling? And how can I best be of service to that? And how can I reframe my business to be relevant when it's about to be written off? I mean, the party industry fell on its knees, party entertainers, party venues. It was a disaster, and there was no real support. There wasn't really any government subsidy for that area. And so
like arts and others.
No. So reframing was amazing. And I really think that one email saved, and the decision to buy all the stock is what saved Cake to the Rescue.
And presumably also, you've always had that amazing community in your Facebook group, and having that Facebook group as part of your marketing strategy, and it's not just a marketing strategy, like it's very genuine.
It's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine that they really rallied around that as well, that message, right?
Yeah, there's a really nice, do you know who Denise, I don't know if people know who Denise Duffdale Thomas is, but she is a mindset marketing person and works a lot with money blocks. And one of the things she says is, I serve, I deserve.
Yeah.
And I really try and see it that way.
Yeah.
Be of service and then not be frightened to ask to be paid for it.
Yeah.
But lead with service, you know, even during this time, we can talk about it later, but at a time where people aren't buying, lead with service.
Yeah.
And so that really definitely helped during that period. But yeah, our community, you know what? I think my biggest piece of advice about community, people tend to think they have to look like they've got their shit together for their community. Do you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
you've got to come on and know what you want to say and be really sure about it. And you have to remember your community aren't sure. And your community are nervous or frightened, whether it's about COVID or whether it's about bringing up their kids or what they're doing. And in general, most people are insecure in some form or way. And so when you come on all, sometimes it's good, you know, weight loss people and here we go, here's what we're doing, because you're looking for motivation. But for many things, people will relate to you more if you come on. So I came on and said, guys, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where we're at. I'm pretty scared. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to invest this money. I'm going to do this. And I've got no idea what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to shut down. I just don't know. So this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to let you know as we go along. And I am really nervous about it. But I'm aware that you guys are now going to get locked up at home with your kids. And so I'm just going to provide whatever service I can do to make that as easy as possible for you. And we're just going to wing it and get through it together. And people respect that way more than and you're still selling. I mean, that's still a sales pitch technically, isn't it? But I just think that it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's actually better. Vulnerability is definitely, I always call it my superpower.
Yeah.
And I think authenticity is one of those branded things now. Do you remember about 4 or 5 years ago, it was really cool to talk about authenticity, and now it's kind of like makes people go, people want to spit when you go, I'm authentic. It sounds so inauthentic.
If you have to say it, you really aren't. I'm sorry.
Right? Right? And it's so weird. So it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to be it. And then other people aren't as comfortable on camera to just, you know, I'm a little bit lolly on camera and I'm happy to chat away. I feel like I'm just sitting in my house making you a cup of tea. But I think that your marketing doesn't always have to be shiny, is what I'm saying.
True. Yeah.
And then they want to support you, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say that holds true the most for any kind of marketing on social media. You know, just don't rough around the edges and just do it on your phone. It works better than if you spend tons of money, you know, creating some slick sort of advert you might see on television, you know.
I think there's a new word for it now. Haven't they brought out a word now for right now that the current marketing is unpolished? I can't remember what word they're using.
Gosh, quite possibly.
I can't think what they're using, but basically they're saying that the thing that gets most traction now is something that's unpolished and natural, because there's so much shininess going on.
Yeah, definitely. I actually heard a podcast with Julie Mathers, who was the founder of Flora and Fauna online store. I was just listening to it the other night, and you know, she talked about how for her some of the best performing marketing that she ever has done was literally just product on the outside table in her backyard, husband holding her phone and video, just, you know, riffing and, you know, talking about products, unscripted, and, you know, bloopers and all the rest of it. And it just went up like it was.
There's a really good lady from she sells those bento boxes. I think she's in Brisbane, and she does really good lives, which are literally just at home showing you it all. And she's got a pretty big company now, but most of what she does is extremely relaxed, and it does resonate really well.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah, so cool. So let's dive into kind of post-COVID.
Ooh.
Not even post-COVID, I know, but post-lockdowns and all the rest of the stuff that happened in the first 2 years.
Sure. So for us, it's been a massive roller coaster. I would say I would think it has for everybody. It's a mental roller coaster, and a realistic roller coaster. So we dropped, I'd say in those last couple of years, we've dropped probably about 30% of what we gained. So we're still up by quite a lot.
Pre-COVID.
But you have to imagine that you've increased your staffing, you've increased everything. And those things you can bring down, and you're still left with those amazing new processes that you've got, and those facilities that aren't costing you anything because you paid for them when you were doing it. And that was a really benefit to it. I would say the hardest thing for me was my ego, if I'm honest. You have a dream for your company, you have a top target, and I was kind of sitting, I'm not really a take over the world girl. I'm more of a what do I want my life to look like kind of girl. And I'm 50 now.
No.
Well, I keep saying that. I'm 49. My husband's like saying, stop saying you're 50. And I'm 49, and I'm at the point of trying to work my way out of my business. My goal is to make exactly the money I make now, just doing whatever the hell I like in my business. Just showing up for cake designing and being a person. It's not really how big can I get it. It's really what do I want my life to look like? My kids have just left school and I'm trying to design this life. And so when at the top of COVID, realistically, that's where I was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've made
Christmas
it. I've done it. Yeah. I was like, I've done it. I'm here. Yeah. And now I can easily step someone into those parts of my job, still make an income I'm really happy with. Yeah. And here we go. And so then we watch it go dook, 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 and come down a bit and start dropping out. And so your ego is the first thing to go. It really took the cream off the top of the company, I guess, is how I describe it. And so a battle with my ego was the first thing. Worrying that you were failing, worrying that the dream is over. The cupcake thing fell out of the sky, and that's actually what took the top off it. And it took me a while to realize the cake kit sales haven't changed, Lou. It's only that it's that little bit on the top.
People aren't making cupcakes anymore.
They're not making cupcakes for holidays. They might have replaced cake with cupcakes, but they aren't just making it for fun because they have no money anymore. So they don't have money for extras and extra fun and that kind of thing. And so initially, over this last 2 years, it's keeping an eye on your head of what is the baseline of my company? What part was just the COVID boom? And how to get back there, because once you've been somewhere, you just want to get back, and you want to fight to get back to it. And so initially, definitely more of an emotional struggle, I would say, than a physical one. I didn't have to sack anyone. I didn't have to reduce anyone's hours and all those things, which is really cool. Because that's always the thing you don't want to do. And you could kind of maintain it all. But the biggest things for me was at least we still had all that mailing list. We still had, because I'm really good at collecting emails, because I had this business coach, Catherine Langman, who taught me how to do that a long time ago. And I'm still doing it with my Just Do No pop-up that just performs out of the park, and our Facebook group. And so I'm still getting lots of and we managed to keep all those emails and still be able to market to all those people. And so now I'd say the dust is settled. I'd like to think we're at the bottom of that thing, because of course we had the drop of COVID, but now we have this financial crisis of people having their mortgages go up month by month by month, and everyone feeling really unsettled, and all of a sudden an ice cream cake seems like a really good idea this year, because you can grab it for $15 at Kohl's and be done and call it a year. And so we're having to work extra hard this year to maintain those levels and to make sure everything's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been trying really hard to just maintain that basics. I think what I've realized with Cake to the Rescue is we have worked so hard on our grassroots marketing.
Yeah.
All of that solid baseline, our funnel system, our retention rate, the way our website performs.
Yeah.
We have seen a little bit of a drop in conversion rate, but we
Mm.
saw a massive increase in conversion rate during COVID.
Yeah.
Our
I
COVID,
imagine people are spending a little bit more time looking and thinking and planning and deciding.
yes,
They'll
for
come. But
sure.
yeah.
Whereas during COVID, it was more of a like, oh, get in quick, buy something,
Yeah.
before they're gone.
Yeah.
But our keeping our conversion rates really tight has been really good. I'm really consistent with emailing. So
Yeah.
I still email twice a week, no matter what. Even if I wake up on a Sunday morning, go, I'll still produce an email that goes out. And I think what I've learned, and I learn it from people marketing to me, like when you're a person who markets, every email you get,
You've
you're
done it,
watching
don't
that
you?
person market to you. It's
Yeah.
the funniest thing. And I've got people who I think's marketing is really, really good. And
Yeah.
there are some big companies, but what would be an example of a baseline thing is Mimco. Mimco send me an email twice a week.
Yeah.
And I don't really buy Mimco. I buy it at Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what am I going to buy? Oh, I'll get something from Mimco. It makes people feel nice. And so I kind of become like a rose gold member at Christmas. And then I kind of pitter off to a nothing member by June. But
Yeah.
because it hits my inbox twice a week, it's like I call it, if I'm explaining it to people, I nudge their shoulder. You know, when you're being bullied at school and someone just kind of half hits you on the shoulder, and if someone keeps picking at you with that tiny little thing, you always remember it. I feel like your inbox is a bit like that. They might not even open the Cake to the Rescue thing, but twice a week in their brain, they hear Cake to the Rescue.
Yeah.
It's like a little whisper in your ear,
Yeah.
And I feel like if you can whisper in someone's ear twice a week, once a week, whatever you're willing to do, it means that when they have money back again, or when the birthday comes, because sometimes people just buy once a year and other people buy Christmas and Father's Day and Easter, but if your money's tight, your kid's birthday might be the only time you buy the cake. And so that little whispering all year round is really, really helpful. And then for the people who wander in but they don't have enough money, catching them with the Just pop-up. We offer them a free gift with their purchase. My years of discounting are done. I haven't offered a discount for, 5 years, I don't think. I only offer
when we work together and you change that opt-in from a discount to a gift with
value add.
Yeah, and you obviously you weren't losing money off the order value, but
I think I understand for seasonal people. Yeah, for seasonal people who have fashion and things where they have to move stock, I understand discounting and you have massive margins. But as a small business that is heavily manufactured and has a lot of, I can't think, it takes a lot of time to produce it. Also, discounting is a dangerous game.
You might not have that, repeat order for a bit longer than perhaps somebody else might because of the
totally. Yeah. And so doing that upgrade, so even though, because someone will see that straight away, comes up with it about 20 seconds, I think. It doesn't scream at them, but it comes up after a couple of pages.
It's fun.
And and it's fun, and it comes up, and I think even if they haven't decided they're not buying yet, they may, so they sign up. Yeah. And so even if you then lose them in that moment, I have them then into the mailing system. So I think that just those basic things and our SEO being so good, we really, do you know what smashed out our SEO is Kate Toon, who's that SEO specialist, has a really cool formula for product pages on eCommerce. Just literally a step-by-step thing. She does a really cool course. And I actually think I learned it through you because one of your specialists had new Kate's course and was teaching that way of setting it up. And It was massive on the impact of SEO and where we rank with our images.
Yeah, you haven't
And so
had to spend much on advertising at all.
no, and I'm really going to have to, I think my days of my free advertising may be nearly done. Initially, we didn't have many competitors. And now as competitors come into the market, we get the most traffic. There's a really cool thing called, is it something everywhere? What's the little Google Chrome plugin?
Oh,
It's black and red, some things everywhere or words everywhere. And
oh,
if you,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And such a brilliant plugin for SEO, and it's free. And then you can pay a little bit to get credit. I think it's $1 a month, but it'll actually tell you the organic traffic of all the other websites.
Yeah.
Next to them. And so I'm aware that our traffic's double any of our competitors, but now our competitors are using Cake to the Rescue as their, their Google ad strategy is to use our name as their thing. And so I'm kind of seeing these people appear everywhere. And it's always an interesting thing to play your own game. You know, when you've been so lucky for so long, a friend of mine opened the first craft brewery on the Gold Coast. And at the time I was an interior designer, and I did all the design of the brewery. And I said to her, as all these famous, Mick Fanning brought out beer and all these Gold Coast brewers started appearing. And she said to me, when you have a product which is niche and no one knows about it, the bigger the pie, the more there is for everybody. And I've always tried to really remember that if it's a product no one knows about, the more people doing it, the bigger the pie gets. And so therefore it's not like you've got the same size of pie and you have to split it up between you.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I try to remember.
The analogy, I was watching the first episode of Shark Tank, this season's Shark Tank.
Me too.
Yeah. And what did he say? It was like, it's better to have a piece of a watermelon than own the entire grape.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that was a really good one, actually. Yeah, so I try to kind of look at it that way. But yes, we have managed. You know what's nice? If I go on holiday, just that baseline system and the way all those funnels and all of those pop-ups and directing everyone to our Facebook group and welcome messages, and that the Facebook group, as much as people will talk about Facebook being dead, that group still generates so much of our sales because it builds know, like, trust in minutes. I don't have to pay to talk to them 10 times before they'll click through to my website. I just have to get them in my Facebook group, and then they trust everyone else. They can look at it and go, oh, there's a post where something went wrong. What did she do? There's a post where someone made an amazing cake. There's a post with a cake that looks more like the cake I might make, and nobody's being mean to them. And and here's all the tips and the ideas, and all these people feel like me.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's instantaneous. So definitely, as much as I know we need to pay for advertising, I think I listened to your podcast the other day. I think you said 15% of your revenue should come from paid ads in the end. And I think that those grassroots techniques, especially at this time when everyone's scared and maybe your cash flow is not as much, I once again looked at my website the other day from my iPhone and looked at it with fresh eyes. And I'm about to do a bit of a rethink of the way my cart looks and the way things look. I think if you can get back to those grassroots of it, if you're, I think I'm really lucky. I think my website converts at about, I think it's 3.5% or maybe 3.8%, which is pretty good for e-commerce.
Yeah.
And I think what people don't realize is that if you think about that, that's if you think about 1 in 4%, so let's call it 4% for easy. If you can improve the conversion rate on your website by 0.5%, you've increased your income by 1/8, and I think people don't see that, it's a lot harder to get that many people more to your site than it is to convert it. And so focusing now at the things you can control and what you can't control, and being really smart at what you can control, will set you up for when everyone comes back.
And they will, everyone, if you look at the history of economics, it's always phases. So,
And I think
that
didn't
stuff
they,
now.
didn't the inflation rate just come down 0.5% last week or something?
I
So
have to say, I stopped looking at too much of the news a long time ago. Always depressing.
Donald Trump ruined the news for everybody.
It's like, if something really majorly bad's happening, someone will tell me. It's kind of
Yeah, but yes, I would say that I understand that people are upset right now and terrified, and I can imagine if you started a business in COVID, that must have been even scarier because of that inflated reality. Whereas for those of us who lived before COVID, we knew our reality, and we might have been lulled into a false sense of security that we'd suddenly become marketing geniuses overnight, which I did, and I can't believe I fell for it. I feel so silly now. When people are like, "Oh, that's just a COVID boost," I'm like, "Oh no, I've been working so hard on all of my stuff," and now I'm like, but I think that's what I'd say. Get back to the real basics of it, those really basic moments, and just be the person that's in their brain all this year, so that when they're ready again next year, because there's that fear that once they leave they won't come back, that they'll forget about you. So just make damn well sure they don't forget about you. That's and right. just have the courage to keep showing up. I think
build that email list and provide value on a consistent basis, and dive into all of those basics that give you a strong foundation as a business. And then when the tide turns, and it will, you can put amplify that with your paid and all the rest of it.
And if you're not that busy in the warehouse and you're a small business, you actually have the time to over deliver. I remember one of the goals I made for my business, because of the personality I have, I was just like, I want to be so successful that I can over deliver on everything. And I meant on my friends, on my family, on my children, on my business, because there's nothing, if you are feeling a little bit lost or a little bit unsure, there is nothing more beautiful than being of service, of over delivering. Over delivering is the best feeling in the world. And I don't mean over delivering because you've paid this much, and I don't mean they paid for $100, you give them $1,000 worth of service. I mean, if you're sitting at home twiddling your thumbs or feeling anxious, or just sitting, which I do, sit drinking tea, just worrying about why my business is failing, but not taking any action because you're so worried. Finding a way to over deliver in that moment. I might go on and do another tutorial. You might write another blog. You might offer some free something. They will remember what you offered them for free at a time when they didn't have the money to spend. And I think I did this thing for my birthday. It was my 47th birthday last year, and I sent 47 diaries to customers with a message of love, because I did a competition on Valentine's Day, which was write something you loved about yourself in the comments to enter the competition. And it killed people to write something kind about themselves. Like, they found it so hard. You can't believe how hard it was for people to say something. And I said, it can't be that you've got lovely kids. You're not allowed to mention what a great mother you are. It's not it has to be about you. And so then what I did is, on my birthday, I went back to those entries, and I took the 47 entries of people who really found it hard to write something nice about themselves, and I wrote about it in the front of their books. And then I sent them all the book, and everyone had to open it on my birthday. And so I had a birthday of people all receiving love from me, and the love I received in return was ridiculous. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever done. And so, if you can offer someone kindness at a moment where you are struggling, and because they're struggling too, then that is a way to cement your brand so hard. Look for opportunities to be of service. If you're sitting around feeling really yucky and having really hard mental thoughts, it's a beautiful way to get yourself out of the rut. It was really good for me. I liked it a lot.
that saying that people won't always remember what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel. So that's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, 1000%, 1000%.
So I just quickly, I want you to tell everyone a little bit about what you are launching now, because I think you have launched it. I mean, it
I
is
have. It is.
as a,
So
really cool strategy. You've been thinking about it for years, but now's a
I
great
have.
moment in time for you to release this. So yeah, tell everyone about
Yeah. So for a long time, I've considered releasing digital recipe cards and templates. I definitely think there was a period of time 7 or 8 years ago where people's IPs and their information was very, 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 very guarded. But industry has reached a part where you have to give a bit more and you have to kind of go a bit more in. And on top of that, I've got lots of customers now who this year can't necessarily afford to make a cake, but they would love some help and support. I have all of the customers in New Zealand who watch Cake to the Rescue close down. And the saddest thing about when something closes down is it takes people a year to realize, because they come for the birthday. So you get a whole year of people going, no. And you get this that reaction for a whole year. We also have a lot of people from overseas visit our site. So Americans, British people, Canadians, and then a myriad of others that drop down in percentages. But like 20% of people who organically visit our site are from overseas.
You can't really buy a cake kit and have it shipped overseas.
No, it costs far too much money. And often people are looking at the last minute. You also have a group of people who are, so many people suddenly get to the night before the party and go, shit, I need to make a dinosaur today. So I'm not getting it to them, but you can offer some kind of help. And I also became aware that, like, when I think about how I used to make cakes before, you go on Google, you find the thing that looks most bearable and you try and make something that looks like that. And so even if people aren't buying our kits, there's a fairly good chance that they're also copying them at home. And I don't mean copying them in the most deflammatory way. I just mean that's just what people do. So you might as well offer them the opportunity to buy a recipe card and template for it. And so it was a massive decision for many reasons. One, it made me feel vulnerable that I might limit the way the company presently functions. You worry about devaluing your existing product. But it became really clear that the people who buy our kits, I know for a fact that if you buy a recipe card and template, it's going to cost you double to go and buy everything for it. So if you are a person who's in Australia, you might do it once, but then you'll come back and buy the kit next time and you'll be more organized. And overseas people, they couldn't buy a kit anyway. And so once I got out of my head with that, it then became down to not cannibalizing what we already have, and also not destroying our beautiful funnels and flows and systems. So what I would say is, if you're making a decision like this, you need to go back to that very basic 101 Catherine Langman teaching, which is your customer journey, and start from start to finish. So if a customer who's existing comes in and now she's got recipe cards and templates being offered and she's got this and that, what's going to happen? If a person buys a recipe card and template and now they're being directed to the Facebook group and everyone else knows where they're getting the whole kit, or it's going to send them the flow of all the funnels and all the flow about how to use your kit, what to do with your kit. We have a whole support. Our funnels are pretty intense and we have support networks. So you suddenly need a whole set of new funnels for that person. You have to decide how you want them to behave. What do you want them to do when they get their kit? What do you want them to do afterwards? They're going to be downloading this in the middle of the night in America. And if it doesn't go well, there's no one awake to deal with them because it's not big enough yet to support them. So all of a sudden it was like, okay, I need to tell them, I need to communicate in every possible form, because people are lazy. They don't read emails. They don't open them. How can I scream the message to them so they don't stuff this up? And so much thought went into their funnel. Discovering, one of the coolest things I discovered, if people don't know this, and I don't know if it works for other pop-ups, and often people ask me, I use the Just Uno pop-up, which was recommended to me years ago by you. I think people don't realize that you can actually do a pop-up based on the geographical area. So we now have this pop-up that comes up and for anyone who's not Australian that says, hey, because also we don't want them to claim a free rolling pin because we're not posting them a rolling pin with their kit.
Right.
And it pops up and says, and it even says, which I would never normally do, and it's funny because I'm Scottish, but it says, "Good day, mate." But it's just so that they know, because the most Aussie thing you could say to someone is, "Good day, mate." So it says, "Good day, mate. You've hit our Aussie site. You aren't able to buy our cake kits here, but you can certainly go in and use our recipe cards and templates straight away. Here's the link."
Yep.
And so they immediately know. So they're not cheesed off that they've wasted their time looking around. Because when you have products that you can only buy in one country, and then like if you come to a website and you can't buy certain products, but you can buy other products, it's confusing. So just, having this geographical element to their pop-ups is really smart, like really smart, and immediately solved a million problems. So we got really smart with it. The biggest thing I would say for me now is how heavily to market it. I maybe still have one toe sitting in the water going, don't destroy your original product, don't destroy your original product, don't market this too much. And you have a weird SEO thing that you don't want the two products to compete with each other. Like you've ranked so hard for dinosaur. Like it's hard to rank for dinosaur. You've worked your butt off. You don't want now your other dinosaur thing confusing people.
Cannibalize on it. No.
Yeah. And so there's a lot to think about. So our digital products aren't SEO'd to the quality of our cake products because I've given cakes the priority. But then that does impact how many you'll sell because it doesn't visualize as much. So we're working through Pinterest and through other things. But I will get to the point now where I need to start testing it and deciding whether I'm going to give it the same power that my other products have. I'm undecided about it. And it's also, I don't know, if you were a product person, if you were a person who makes a product, I often think about my legacy of Cake to the Rescue. If you've never done this before, when you, especially for mine, because it's art, when you create art, and then, I get teary, and then you send it out into the world, and then all of a sudden your art is being recreated by other humans and with the joy of their children, it's kind of special. And I don't want that bit. Logically, if we could sell more digital recipe cards and templates than we do cakes, we could shut Cake to the Rescue. You could actually supersede Cake to the Rescue and never do it anymore, and just have this amazing digital product that makes money off 12 years of design work. And it just does what it does. And I could work really hard on that. But for me, the joy of the community, the joy of them making my cake, the more likelihood of seeing it, them receiving it the way it was meant, what it's being created, and how much love and care I've put into it, it's worth more somehow. It's what is your legacy? Is your legacy, what do you want your legacy to be, and how do you feel about it?
You are such a you are such a great host. I know that you come to that from such a place of generosity, but you also get a lot of joy from seeing people enjoy that as well. So it's
and also I'm insecure, and I'm a person who requires constant constantly have people telling me I'm not too bad a person and I'm doing a good job, and it's like feeding my anxiety and my thing. And so
we all have a bit of
that. that reassurance that you're doing a good job and that you have something to offer is really beautiful. As naive and insecure as that feels, what do you want from your business? What do you want to get out of it? If for you your business is transactional because there are other parts of your life where you want to get all those other things, there's this really cheesy thing in You've Got Mail Did you ever see that movie all
Yeah,
those years
yeah,
ago? And there's
yeah.
Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, and she's got the bookstore and he's got the big bad fox bookstore. And he says to her, it's not personal. And she says to him, everything should be personal. What's the point in doing it if it's not personal?
Mm.
And that's how I feel about business. Business to me is personal. It's
Yeah.
about relationships. I'm addicted to relationships.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I find it hard to ever imagine handing Cake to the Rescue over to being a digital product full time, but I'm happy that more people are able to make it. I
Yeah.
think from a business perspective, it's really smart. It increases the value of my company. I've worked really hard to create this product line, so it makes sense to monetize it. It makes sense. Maybe I'll end up with a series of recipe books that I launch once a year as digital recipe books. Maybe there'll be lots of opportunities for that.
Yeah.
But at the core of me will always be connection and that beauty of creating something and then watch the world recreate it. I think that's my legacy, no matter what happens with this product. So yeah, I'm such a mush bucket. Oh my God.
So beautiful. And I feel like that is the perfect, spot to tie up our conversation, because it's such a beautiful sentiment. And I would just like to ask, because I know there'll be so many people who've listened to this and just want to find out more about you and find out more about your fantastic products and this gorgeous community that you've created. So where should we direct them to come to?
You'll find us on all socials. Cake to the Rescue. Terrible marketing idea. We've made it with a number 2 all those years ago. I have more URLs than you can possibly imagine because of that number 2. But Cake to the Rescue. I know a lot of people are now on Instagram, younger people on Instagram. I'm really bad at it. The Facebook group is the place to be more than anything else. And if you search up DIY Cake Kits, you'll always find us on the web. We're always going to show up there. But the Facebook page and the group particularly is the Cake to the Rescue support group, is where you get to interact with me the most and get the real version. So
Get the Baker Girl Lou.
Yes, get the Baker Girl Lou fix. Yeah, for sure.
I just want to also say to everyone listening, if you have not yet mastered, the kind of e-commerce marketing foundations that Lou has been talking about, go and check out her website and see how she does it, because it's really good.
Oh, thank you, love.
Thank you so much for jumping on, and it's been a fantastic conversation. I've loved it.
Awesome. Me too. Take care. Mwah.